Welcome to season 2 of the Will You Stop podcast. We are back. It's 2020. Happy New Year, Av. How we doing?
Happy New Year, sir. We are doing well. How's everything by you?
Same old, same old. We got a lot to talk about. It actually was a pretty busy and eventful week this week in wrestling. So we're going to jump into it. We'll start with Monday. And let's talk about Monday Night Raw. I guess obviously coming out of Raw, the big news, the wedding of the decade. So, Car Crash TV, reminiscent of the old Russo era.
I was thinking about that. I mean, listen, to discuss Raw, all you're discussing is one thing, and that was that segment at the end for the wedding. And it was definitely Russo-esque. Had a very WCW Russo-esque feel to it, a TNA Russo-esque feel to it. I feel like even back then, Vince would kind of filter that out. This kind of falls under the category of shit that Vince found funny. Listen, he's not going to put something on TV that nobody wants to watch, at least in his mind. The guy is rewriting the script, during the actual show. The only person I guess you kind of almost feel bad for in this is Liv Morgan, who is just, I mean, the girl can't catch a break at this point.
It was literally crickets when she came out. No one knew who she was.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at, what's funny about it? If you look at the actual segment and people are saying, is it the worst segment in wrestling history? Those people obviously never sat through WCW or WWE in the early 90s, between stuff like the Gobbledygooker, the Shockmaster, Stephanie's Wedding to Test, things like that. Katie Vick, which you defended till this day for God knows what reason. So you've had your share of horrible segments. This wasn't a horrible segment in the classical sense of a horrible segment. And people are going to jump down my throat for saying this. Let me explain. Those segments that are really bad, those were meant to be good segments that people actually wanted, well, quote unquote, wanted to watch. This was not a segment that was supposed to be good to begin with. I think it was one of those things where, okay, it's going to be bad. We're going to make it as bad as possible. If you're going to go big or go home. And I think that was the attitude that was taken with this, is that this is going to suck. The feud itself has really garnered little to no interest. Let's be honest. Both guys don't get a lot of interest from any fans that are out there. Rusev had his Rusev Day, but for the most part, guys aren't clamoring to see Rusev in the ring. Bobby Lashley, I don't think anybody's ever clamored to see Bobby Lashley in the ring. Lana, nobody ever really clamors to see Lana, period. And I think they know this, and I think they took those ingredients, threw it into a pot, mixed it up together, and it just got more and more ridiculous as it went on. And listen, I watched the segment, I think 2 or 3 times. I DVR every single show. I watched this probably 2 or 3 times, only because the first time you watched it, it was like, ooh, this is bad. Then the second time you watch it, it's like, this is bad, but now I kind of get it. But the third time you watch it, it's kind of like the movie like Napoleon Dynamite. The first time you watch it, you're like, this is not funny. Why am I watching this? Then you watch it a second and third time, you're like, all right, actually, this is pretty freaking funny. That's the feeling I got with this, is that it was stupid. It was a train wreck. Nobody was going to get anything out of it. It wasn't going to further anything. But I'll tell you what, now all of a sudden people are interested in this feud, because now how tasteless and how bad can they get with this?
Well, I want to throw some numbers at you, okay? Raw got 2.437 million viewers, okay? The actual reveal of Liv Morgan coming out is at 4.2 million views. And the post-Raw footage of Lana having her meltdown with the cake all over is at 3.2 million. So combined, they doubled the Raw audience.
Yeah, like I said, it's one of those things where, like, the first time you watch it, it's like, all right, what? I remember when it first came on, I'm thinking to myself, wow, this might be the worst segment in the history of wrestling. And then I watched it again, and then it really occurred to me where it's like almost like a dark comedy type deal where if you don't get it, you're not going to get it. This is one of those segments that no one's going to talk about this 20 years from now. But for now, people are talking about it. It's going to garner interest. It's got a lot of interest on YouTube, and I can guarantee, without a shadow of a doubt, this is opening up Raw on Monday night.
Well, I read a couple of sites and a couple of quotes. They're saying that Vince loves this. He wants more of this Jerry Springer stuff. and he's trying to balance what he wants with what USA wants. That said, my question to you is this: with the numbers were on YouTube, does it justify more of Vince doing this kind of stuff? I mean, if it's what's the old saying? There is no bad publicity, good or bad. It's always good.
I mean, he's not getting publicity out of this per se like he was during the Attitude Era. I think this is one of those things that if you do it once in a while, it works. You do it over and over and over again, as Russo learned, people are just going to tune out eventually. This is very Russo-esque, and this is the stuff that Russo was doing with WCW. This is definitely the stuff he was doing in TNA. And people chuckle at it at first, but when you're doing it week in and week out, it's going to get old quick.
Right.
We haven't seen anything like this on Raw, SmackDown. I mean, I can't remember the last time he came close to anything like this. Maybe the Billy and Chuck wedding. I mean, I can't think of anything else that resembled anything like this in the last 10, 15 years. So this is the first time we're seeing this. Do it this Monday and next Monday and the Monday after that, it's going to get tired real quick.
Right.
That's the problem with Vince these days is that he'll find something, it'll hit for a second, and he'll just use it until people are sick of it.
Go to the well once too many off, 2 times.
A perfect example is a couple of years ago when they had Fandango come out, and, it was the day after WrestleMania. I think it was in 2012. It was a hot crowd. They went on with the Fandango dance, and they made it into this whole big thing. And by next week, nobody gave a shit anymore. That's where Vince goes wrong. He's just looking for that quick hit, and that quick hit's not going to exist now. During Attitude, that quick hit existed because you had guys like Austin and The Rock fueling everything behind the scenes. So you're getting quick hits. That's not going on right now. I can't even think of your biggest star in wrestling right now, to be honest with you.
Now, my last question about this wedding thing is the whole big thing that I've been reading is that they use the lesbian angle for shock. Is someone coming out as a lesbian really a shock in 2020?
Nah.
I mean, come on. That's
maybe for a 12, 13-year-old kid watching, but for somebody who went through Attitude, this is really not going to do much for you.
Right.
We've seen far worse than this in wrestling.
This
was a quick hit. Honestly, if they play it out, it's going to get played out quick.
All I'm going to say is I think Stephanie McMahon being drugged and, taken to the altar in Vegas would be a lot more shocking than a girl coming out as a lesbian. But,
The thing is, listen, this feud needed something, I guess, to ignite it because it's really not getting a lot of interest. Listen, Rusev and Bobby Lashley are not putting on a 5-star match anytime soon, but at least now there's some interest.
Right.
And I've been booking Raw, to be honest with you, and we'll get into this later on when we discuss NXT and AEW. I think a better ending for Raw as opposed to that stupidity, which is getting them the publicity they need, or they want. Publicity they want, at least amongst wrestling circles, would have been Ricochet and Rusev versus Lashley and Andrade in a tag team match. Nobody gets hurt in a tag team match. You could further all feuds in a tag team match. That would have been better off doing that, but, it's Vince. What can you do at this point?
Now, the only other thing that I could come up with besides the wedding to talk about on Raw is the Randy Orton angle, which honestly I liked. I liked that they started something at a house show and then they carried it over to Raw. So that's twice in a week that they've decided to do something at house shows and to bring onto TV. So what did you think about the Randy Orton angle? We saw it coming a mile away. We knew he wasn't really hurt. But I still think, for Randy Orton, he did a really good job for it.
Listen, it's a entertaining feud, but we've been down this road before with these two. Mm-hmm. Didn't they feud like 3 or 4 years ago? And
WrestleMania.
Yeah, I mean it's one of those feuds where it's fun because you're gonna get decent match quality. You're not gonna get much in the segments. It's an old school feud to a degree. Yeah, it was nice they did going from the house show, bringing it, to Raw. To me, you're not getting much interest out of it on my end.
All right. So next week, Brock returns. WrestleMania season's coming, so they got to start getting their dividends with Brock. So he's back. We're gonna have a triple threat match: the OC against the Street Profits versus the Viking Raiders for the tag titles, and then Andrade versus Rey in a rematch for the U.S. title. So that's what we got for Raw for this coming Monday.
What's astonishing to me is that right now it's January 3rd. When is the Royal Rumble?
3 weeks from Sunday.
We have not heard a peep about it. in any way, shape, or form so far. They haven't discussed either the Royal Rumbles for the men or the women. No title matches have been discussed. No singles matches have been discussed. This is going to be one of those pay-per-views where they just shove everything up our ass in the last 2 Raws and last 2 SmackDowns, if you think about it.
Yep.
And whenever that happens, nothing good comes of it. I actually read a report today that WrestleMania is completely up in the air still.
Yeah, nothing's been confirmed. I saw that too. Nothing's been confirmed for WrestleMania. They still have no idea what they're doing. There's no plan finalized.
To me, that Vince used to run things on like a year-to-year basis. At the very least, 6 months in case of injuries and stuff like that. I mean, now you're sitting here 3 weeks from the Rumble and roughly, 3 months from WrestleMania, and we have no idea where we're heading with either pay-per-view.
Nope.
And we still got to get to the February pay-per-view.
Elimination Chamber.
And you're still going to have pay-per-view in March if you think about it.
That Fastlane, I think, is in March. So, yeah.
So you've done nothing with the Rumble. You got to get 2 more pay-per-views out of the way and WrestleMania, and you've got nothing going on right now.
Yep.
Bravo.
Welcome to the universe. Okay. NXT, there wasn't much to talk about this week. They did 548,000 viewers, down from the Christmas show, which was at 795, but that was when they were by themselves. It was nothing to it. It was a year-end award show. They presented the pre-tapes with the, in the ring, giving them these golden bells, and they showed the 3 top pay-per-view matches for NXT. The 4-way ladder match from NXT 25, the Women's War Games, and then from New York, Gargano against Cole. Next week, the only match they've announced is a number 1 contender match for the North American title. Keith Lee against Jaja Kovac versus Damian Priest versus Cameron Grimes. I'm sorry if Keith Lee's winning this one, but
Keith Lee's won me over. He's probably my favorite guy right now in NXT. Actually, I'm kind of getting into Damian Priest now. I've called him a poor man's Edge, and I'm sticking to that when he has that look and that feel to him. I think a good valet might do him wonders. Mm-hmm. My issue with NXT this week is this, and we discussed this, before we got on the air. We discussed this all of last week. Last week when AEW wasn't on during Christmas and NXT ran a tape show, that was probably one of the best wrestling programs I've seen in years. You had no filler. You had no bullshit. You had no stupid interviews. You just had a solid couple of matches. What was it, like 5, 6 matches? Each match solid. No major botches. No major, fuck-ups. It was just good wrestling show with good quality matches. And what I find amazing about it is you follow that up with a bullshit award show that nobody cared about. On the other side of that, AEW, on the other hand, basically followed NXT's formula because they gave us exactly what NXT had.
Exactly.
No filler. They gave us one big interview with MJF, and he's always a pleasure to watch. Nobody's going to mind about his interviews. But they gave us a good 5 to 6 quality matches. Not one bad match in the entire show. Mox seems to be getting better every single week. The heels now are really starting to take formation. Your opening match with Cody and what's his name again?
Darby Allin.
Great match again. Your final match, your tag team match at the end was great. Kenny Omega's looking better now. It was a top to bottom great show. And I feel like NXT and AEW have learned just put on great matches, less filler, and the fans will simply enjoy it. Whereas SmackDown and Raw is just a lot of bullshit.
Yep. I heard this from Bully Ray on Busted Open last week, and I've been saying it, and I agree with it. NXT is pro wrestling. Raw and SmackDown are sports entertainment.
Yeah, I could see that, but even Raw and SmackDown aren't even entertaining at this point. Yeah. I mean, when they do give you, quote-unquote, a good match, for instance, this past Monday, Aleister Black and
Buddy Murphy
was a good match for Raw. Put it on NXT or AEW, and it's probably a dud. And that's the issue we're at now, is that the style of matches on Raw and SmackDown that they're considering good matches really aren't good matches. They're just actual matches. Yep. We're so used to having crap thrown at us that when we actually have a match, we're in shock and don't know what to do with ourselves. AEW and NXT, for what it's worth, they're really giving us good quality matches and really showing us where the profession can kind of go. You have these big athletic guys that are back. Now, you look at Keith Lee. Keith Lee's a throwback to the guys of the 50s and 60s, but the guy can actually move. And when you look at, even that Four Corners match with the women on AEW on Wednesday night, that was a classic match. That was a great match. Classic formula, classic ending, but they did it right. And if you look at the matches on NXT and AEW, not a lot of jumping around, not a lot of huge high spots like you see in these stupid indie shows, not a lot of cooperation, although NXT can have a little too much cooperation at times. War Games, perfect example of that. But you're not seeing a lot of the cooperation, quote unquote, you would see in an indie show. On the other side of that, I feel like, when Raw and SmackDown finally give us a decent match, they just blow it out of proportion, bring the both guys back a week later and give us shit again.
Yep. Now, my question to you is this. Was there a mistake for NXT not to go live on New Year's Day? Or do you think...
They didn't even have to go live. They should have just given us a show. I think it was a mistake not to give us a show, to be honest with you, because they had a great show the week before. I'll say it again. That was probably the best show I've seen wrestling-wise in years. Years. Forget pay-per-views. I'm talking regular weekly show. Best show I've seen in years. It was, like I said, 5 to 6 great matches, no filler. Crowd was dead, but they just had to get through SmackDown, so you can't blame them, obviously.
Right.
The crowd at AEW, that was a hot crowd, which is always fun, always adds to the dimension of wrestling, so to speak. But had they gone, even a taped show with, again, 5 to 6 quality matches, A, I think their ratings would have been better, and B, I probably would have watched it, to be honest with you. I didn't even bother watching NXT this week.
Yeah. There was nothing to watch. That was why. I'm surprised they got 550,000 people to watch a tape show like that. To me, that's just...
NXT has their niche audience. They're always going to watch no matter what. I mean, you used to be one of those people.
Yep. Let's talk about the big dog this week, AEW. In my opinion, this was the best episode of Dynamite since it started in October.
Oh, I'll agree. That was a great episode on Wednesday night. There was not one... I mean, let's go through the matches they had.
First of all, I want to go through. I have a whole first a Daly's Palace over there in Jacksonville, that amphitheater. I don't care. That's a great.
I love that. That is a great venue.
I love the ramp to the corner as opposed to straightforward. I love that look. The thing is outside. I mean, you saw Justin Roberts. He actually had an overcoat on.
Yeah, I saw that also. That is a fun arena to watch wrestling in. That's a good arena to watch. I'm a big fan of that arena. I wish they would go there more often. People complaining about it for some odd reason. I thought that was a great arena, the way it looked. What I liked about it the most, to be honest with you, instead of showing the hard cam, the big crowd area, they showed the little crowd area. Right. But when you got shots of that big crowd area, it looked a lot bigger than it really was. It's not a big arena. It's an amphitheater, so it looks a lot bigger than it was. I think the visuals were great.
Yeah, I love that place. Okay. Let's start with, like you said, the big thing I questioned about AEW when they started is, are they going to be able to build stars? And to me, I got 4 names that they are building as homegrown talent. Darby Allin, MJF, Jungle Boy, and Luchasaurus.
I'm fans of all of them. You know that.
I think all 4 are going to be the future of that company.
Yeah, I agree. But I like all 4 of them. I have no problems with any of them. I think they all have star, quote unquote, written all over them. I don't know. Do I see any of them as a world champion? I could see Luchasaurus as a world champion one day, to be honest with you. I think he has enough of a following and enough of a backing. I don't see Jungle Boy as a world champion. Darby Allin, not yet. He's still kind of youngish. But I could see Luchasaurus as a world champion one day.
And MJF, definitely.
Oh, yeah. MJF probably going to be your next world champion, to be honest with you.
Okay. They actually make wins and losses actually matter with AEW, which is, for me, is very big. The fact I love, JR had one line during his commentary that the winner gets more money. Almost a throwback to the winner's purse line that Gorilla would always have.
Yep, used to love that.
So,
I want to jump on that because people like Jim Cornette,
who's lost his mind, for the record, he's gone.
Right, has made comments to the effect of wins and losses don't matter in wrestling. And I'm going to jump on that because, yes, they do. They don't matter when you get to a certain level. But if you're going to tell me Hulk Hogan was jobbing out as a curtain jerker back in 1983, that would have brought us Hulkamania still, you're out of your mind. If Stone Cold Steve Austin was jobbing out still in 1997, you wouldn't have a Stone Cold Steve Austin. So, yes, to a degree, wins and losses matter when you're building a guy. If Goldberg didn't have his streak, you wouldn't have a Goldberg.
There would be nothing special.
Right. Once he lost that streak, he was nothing special.
Right.
You're going to tell me wins and losses don't matter to a guy like Mr. Perfect back in the day?
It's literally his namesake. He had to have a perfect record until the right guy, which wasn't Brutus Beefcake, but that's neither here nor there now.
Yeah. But like I was saying, so, wins and losses don't matter when you get to a certain point. I think when you're The Rock in 2001, yeah, wins and losses don't matter. So to a man, I like the fact that they're going with the wins and loss thing. I like the fact they're actually making a big deal of wins and losses. Like I said, this Wednesday night was kind of a we're going to show you what we can do type episode for AEW. Like that was one of those episodes where it was like, okay, they're really starting to get people complained about this show and that show, and I kept saying they're starting to work the kinks out. I think this week's show, like, okay, they're learning from their mistakes and they're starting to rectify and they're basically giving us what we want to see.
All right, what was your opinion of Taz and JR on the commentary with Excalibur? I thought it was fresh. I thought it gave JR a little bit of a different life to him than he's been doing with Tony Schiavone. I mean, I thought it was really great. I was critical of Taz. I said he was rusty when I was watching it live. I rewatched it. And I was wrong about that. He was on point. Him and JR, I think the only time they've ever called a match together was at a Royal Rumble years ago. But I think they meshed so well that I would want to see Taz be there every week and maybe kill Tony Schiavone for backstage segments or in-ring interviews and then have him work pay-per-views.
Well, let me just start by saying that you, for some odd reason, love to go hard in AEW. I don't know if it's the WWE in you.
I don't know. Don't play that game. I think I'm harder on AEW because I want them to succeed. So when I see these stupid mistakes that they had at the beginning, like I was at the Philly show, and I think it was both Lucha Brothers were in the ring, and they considered it a tag. They didn't even tag out. It's like stupid stuff like that that is just like 101 type stuff should not be happening, even with a new company, because you don't have like, I understand Tony Khan as an owner is new to the business of wrestling, but you got four of the best wrestlers in the world as your executive vice presidents. Things like that should not be happening.
Listen, everyone's going to make mistakes at first. Like I said, they just started out. They've literally just started out. They're brand spanking new. Mistakes are going to happen at the beginning. You have to expect that. But that being said, I like JR and Taz and Excalibur this week. Tony, I don't know. I think about it, do you want to do a thing where maybe you have JR for the first hour, Tony for the second hour, or vice versa? Tony gets for pay-per-views. I mean, there's something to be said when you have two faces working together. It's kind of strange. It's kind of weird at times. You don't see it too often, and maybe that's, as a fan, you're kind of expecting to see a color guy, for instance, like a Taz. I thought Taz did pretty well this week, given the fact he hasn't done this in a while. I've never been a huge fan of Taz. I liked him on SmackDown. I liked him at TNA/Impact. Not a huge fan, like I said, but it was definitely refreshing to hear. I'm definitely not going to sit there and say I'm not a huge. Listen, anything's better than listening to Michael Cole and Renee Young and whoever else they got with them. Honestly, the best thing that happened to that Raw announced team was Samoa Joe. At least he was reasonable to listen to. Corey's gone completely down the tubes. Renee Young is my God. It's like listening to, all you hear is ooh, ah, A-O. I mean, it's like, what are we doing over there? And Michael Cole, I've never been a fan of the guy.
Do you know what Vince McMahon considers to be the worst WrestleMania match of all time?
Huh?
Michael Cole versus Jerry Lawler. Michael Cole was on that After the Bell, Corey's podcast. He was telling the story that when they came back, he went to Vince and he's like, how was that? He goes, that was the worst thing I've seen in 60 years. So
yeah, it was pretty bad.
Back to AEW. Okay, my one complaint is they seem to be doing too many turns. I mean, you had the MJF thing. Now they're hinting at the Hangman Page turning on the Elite. Mox is going to do something to turn on Jericho. I mean, I think it's too much too quick. What do you think about that?
Like I said, they're still finding their footing. People forget when Nitro first started, WCW, previous to that was the NWA, previous to that was, Crockett Promotions. You had something like 70 years of fandom behind you. So you already had your base fans, so to speak, and you kind of knew what they wanted. AEW is getting their base, and they're still trying to figure out what their base wants to see. So you know what? The truth of the matter is, I'm not, in a year or two from now, if we're having the same conversations, it's a problem.
All right,
But
MVP.
right
Go ahead.
now, I have no issues with AEW is doing.
Can we agree that Mox is gonna? They have about their next pay-per-view is on Leap Day, so that gives
Right.
them about 7 weeks of stuff. It would make no sense for Mox to go against Jericho right now for 7 weeks. So do you see him next week joining the Inner Circle for a few weeks and then eventually turning to lead to the pay-per-view match?
Um,
Because otherwise, wouldn't it be, isn't it WWE version a WWE thing to just have him automatically, turn him down and what they're gonna make him work through the entire Inner Circle to get to, Jericho, like an NWO type thing, or what do you think they should do?
honestly, keep doing what you're doing. Right now, it's working. I'm not going to think too much into it. AEW is doing the right thing. I think the issue with WWE is they overthink too much. I've always been a fan of keep it simple. Keep wrestling simple. Good guy, bad guy, fight. End of story.
I'm gonna give the MVP of the week to Dustin Rhodes. The guy is like 51 years old.
Better with age.
He has wrestled for on 5 decades, 5 different decades. He's been wrestling,
I saw a
and
meme
he's
that Michael Cole has been announcing now for like what four different decades,
yep.
and that's something to be proud of.
I mean, the fact that Dustin Rhodes is doing Canadian destroyers on the apron to Sammy Guevara, and he's still going, is beyond me. But
Why?
yeah,
Why is Michael Cole still around?
who else are they gonna have?
Oh, anybody else? Michael Cole is easily the worst announcer in wrestling
Well,
history. That's the one thing NXT really also has going for him is
Morrow and Nigel.
great announcing. They make up. I mean, listen, Morrow sometimes is just yelling. God knows what he's yelling, but it makes the match sound a lot more fun.
I mean, some of the best videos is just the videos of watching him do stuff, and he's standing up, and
Right.
he gets. All right, so for next week, they got AEW's got Moxley's answer to the Inner Circle, and a first-time tag match, Cody and Dustin against the Lucha Brothers. So
That could be a match. I love the Lucha Brothers. Lucha Brothers are an awesome team.
to me, that's a great clash of styles. Like the Lucha Brothers have been working with guys who can fly and stuff like the Bucks, but this is Cody and Dustin are going to be more grounded. So it's going to be interesting to see how they kind of change their style up. But another thing I want to ask, I mentioned this when we were talking on Wednesday. To me, Nick Jackson is going to be the Shawn Michaels of that team if they ever go singles. What do you think about that?
You can never tell those things. I mean, if you think about it, who would have thought that Matt Hardy would turn out to be the more successful of the Hardy brothers? Everybody figured it would be Jeff for all those years. He won the WWE title. He seemed to have more personality, better in-ring work, and then Matt comes up with, broken Matt Hardy. So who would have thought that he would have been the bigger Hardy if you think about it? So you can never tell with those things.
See, to me, Darby Allin kind of has that Jeff Hardy-esque, feel to him back in the day when Jeff Hardy was, really popular.
I don't know. I'm trying not to compare these guys to WWE guys and like somebody I know.
Okay. Let's do somebody I know, please. All right. SmackDown, really quick. Honestly, they're teasing on Miz turning heel again. Thank God, because, he's
Miz could be
horrible.
heel. Miz could be heel, face. Miz could leave and nobody's going to care.
Well, we got 4 returns tonight. So John Morrison returned to TV. So it looks like they're going to be doing Miz. He was in Miz's dressing room after Miz snapped. So it looks like they might be putting those two back together as a tag team, which I'm okay with because Miz doesn't seem to have a direction. Sheamus returned tonight.
Oy.
And finally, the Usos returned to save Roman Reigns from Dolph and Corbin. So, and the last thing on SmackDown, which I know you're going to love, and they're rehashing this classic wrestling angle, Otis and Mandy Rose. So I know you're a big Otis fan.
I'm a huge Otis fan. That's the only thing I look forward to on SmackDown is Otis. I truly believe Otis is a star in the making.
It was actually a singles match. I think it was his first singles match on WWE TV tonight. So they were doing this whole thing backstage with Mandy, and Mandy's like liking Otis. You know, they've done this 100 times with
What?
different. But yeah. So let's talk about the numbers for a minute, because I know how you love the ratings on certain weeks. You love talking about ratings only on certain weeks. But I actually did some research, and can you tell me can you guess what the biggest gap for AEW versus NXT was?
I will say AEW dominated the 18 to 49 demographic.
No, I mean, this is week 14. What do you think the biggest gap was actually week 1? 518,000 viewer difference.
All right.
This week was the second, which was 419,000. And this week was actually the lowest NXT rating has had since the Wednesday Night War started. So it's interesting. I think next week will be a lot closer that you have both shows live. I want to bring up something that we discussed during the week is also AEW going hard on every week and trying to make it a pay-per-view every week. We discussed that.
I don't see an issue with that. I mean, that's basically what Raw and SmackDown. I mean, that's what Raw and Nitro were doing for, as long as they were around.
But don't you think they should do more? Like we would talk about different squash matches and, doing like sometimes less is more. What do you think about that?
I've always been of the theory that I think both shows, well, Raw definitely, SmackDown's not going to do it. They're on national TV at this point. I think AEW and Raw definitely could use a few more squash matches. Definitely AEW, they got to build more guys up, and I think the perfect way to do it, throw them out there, let them get a couple of squash matches out there, let them show their arsenal, build up their character, so to speak. So I think AEW should do a couple of more squash matches. Raw can definitely throw a squash match or two in there. I think that's definitely something both shows need to look into, but definitely AEW. I just think I have no problem with the pay-per-view quality every single week. You can't. The fans are never going to tell you, no, give us a bad show. It's not going to happen. If you look at the peak of the Monday Night War, Nitro and Raw, I'd say from mid-98 until probably, March of 2001, you were getting 2 pay-per-views every single week from those two. Raw and Nitro blew away most pay-per-views, to be honest with you, at that point. So I have no problem with that. But yeah, AEW, I think, could use a couple of more squash matches.
Why do you think that Wednesday nights are not getting as much viewers as a Monday night? I'm not even talking so much individual, but combined. They're like AEW and NXT are combined maybe 1.5 million, but then you get Raws that are getting 2.4. Why do you think they're not getting as many viewers between the two shows as opposed to a Monday?
How old is Raw?
30 years almost,
How old's AEW?
Okay.
How old's NXT? It's first and wins. You know that. You're going to listen, you have people that watch Raw because they've always watched Raw. Same for SmackDown. A lot of people aren't watching NXT, as you realize, from the WWE universe, so to speak. When NXT went, by itself 2 weeks ago, what were the ratings?
I actually have it. 2 weeks ago, they went 795,000 by themselves on Christmas.
Right, and they're averaging, for the most part, even head-to-head, between 700,000 and 800,000.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like AEW is averaging between 700,000 and 800,000 also. So AEW has their fan base of the 700,000 or 800,000. I mean, you're getting your 700,000, 800,000. NXT really is a niche thing. It's interesting. I was listening to, who was it? Let me think. I don't think it was Meltzer. It might have been Brian Alvarez who brought up an interesting point. NXT's viewership is way older than AEW's viewership, where AEW dominates the 18 to 49 group, but your 49 to 55 group, NXT dominates that one. For some odd reason, your NXT viewership it seems like a lot of guys that came up with during the golden age and have stuck with it. Guys pretty much, a little older than us, really, it seems like. So it's very, very odd, NXT's viewership, so to speak.
Yeah, it seems that it's more like the old school fans are flocking to the developmental as opposed to even going watching, Raw and SmackDown.
To me, Raw, I think, is on because honestly, it's a habit for a lot of people. The same with SmackDown. I think NXT, well, that's the thing though. NXT is not getting any of those new fans. I feel like the kids are tuning into Raw and SmackDown while the adults tuning into NXT. So it's kind of weird if you think about it. I mean, I'm sure people have done marketing research into this to figure out what's what, and I'm sure it's something you could look into, but for whatever reason, it seems like your older demographic is watching NXT and your younger demographic are watching Raw and SmackDown. It's kind of strange.
And it's kind of strange. And the one thing that I think and all around is there's no new viewers being built.
Well, that's
And I
because
think
yeah, right now the business itself is just in a down period.
so much for the boom coming that everyone talked about. But
Well, I've always said it. To get that boom, you need a guy to bring you to that boom. With the way Austin did, the way The Rock did, the way Hogan turning and during the NWO did. You need someone to bring you to that boom. There's nobody around now bringing us that boom. People tuned in to see what Austin was doing. People tuned in to see what Hollywood Hogan was doing. People tuned in to see what The Rock was doing. Who are you tuning in to see?
right, there's no single entity bringing the masses in.
As good as Jericho is right now, no one's tuning in to see him per se. On Raw and SmackDown, I mean, I don't see anybody tuning in. Bray maybe at times, but he shows up so seldom and so out of the blue, you can't really judge that, to be honest with you. So it's one of those times where this total viewership is just down. The business right now is down. Yet it's making more money than ever. So go figure that out.
So this coming weekend we have the end of an era. Jushin Thunder Liger will be wrestling his last two matches this coming weekend for Wrestle Kingdom. So what's your favorite Jushin Liger moment or memory?
I mean, he opened up the first Nitro. You can't go back. I mean,
Yeah.
what else can you say? I've always been a big Jushin Thunder Liger fan. Always liked his matches. Always liked his work. Always been a fan of his since he came over in WCW in what, 91, 92, whenever that was. And, he'll be one of those guys. I don't know if he'll ever fully retire. I feel like he's one of those guys that'll be like a Terry Funk almost, where he'll retire, pop up again, retire, pop up again. I just can't see a guy like that walking away.
Oh, so you're saying he's going to pull a Terry Funk and retire 13 times?
Probably, yeah.
He's just insane. So yeah. So let me ask you, what's your opinion of them splitting Wrestle Kingdom up to two nights? You think it's like too much?
I think WrestleMania is going to do it eventually. I don't think you have a choice in the matter. People can't sit there for 8 hours watching wrestling. I think we're headed for that way WrestleMania. I think you're going to get to a point with WrestleMania, they're going to have part one on Saturday and part two on Sunday.
So we're going to just have 5 straight days of WrestleMania type stuff?
I mean, you're getting to the point now with wrestling, especially WrestleMania. What was last year's WrestleMania? 7.5 hours?
Yeah, with the pre-show, it was like almost 8 hours, yeah.
I mean, a person can't be expected to sit through that. I think you're going to get to a point where they're going to split WrestleMania up into 2 separate nights. And you don't be shocked if it goes from 2 separate locations moving forward also.
Interesting.
I'd like to see how this year's WrestleMania does with ticket sales, because right now I'm hearing that your pre-sales are non-existent.
They're not even sold out. When was the last time you could remember that WrestleMania doesn't sell out right away?
WrestleMania 7.
I'm saying, yeah. So, yeah, I mean.
Let's see how many seats are left on StubHub.
So while you look at Okada versus Ibushi for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship.
Should be a classic.
Who do you think takes it? Okada keeps it?
I wouldn't be shocked if he kept it, but wouldn't be shocked if he lost it either.
Jay White against Naito for the Intercontinental title?
I want Jay White in America already. Enough is enough. I want him in America. I want him in AEW. That guy is so talented. And I think he's just wasting his time in Japan right now. They must be paying him well, because I have to assume at some point AEW is bringing him over here.
I want to see him and Will Ospreay come over.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys get your hands on him, you'll ruin both of them. I'd like to see him, Will Ospreay, and Zack Sabre all go to AEW, to be honest with you. I think they'd have I think they'd be great. I think the American people just want to see them. And quite honestly, if you guys get your hands on them, you're going to ruin all of them.
Do you think there is going to be some sort of working agreement with IWGP and AEW? I ask this because of we have Tanahashi against Jericho on night 2. And Jericho has said that if Tanahashi wins, he'll give him an AEW title shot.
Yeah, I don't see why not. Listen, they've had working agreements. Listen, even WWE had working agreements in Japan. It's not like something that's so out of the realm.
So I'm just looking at the card here for night. So Sonata against Zack Sabre Jr. is a match we're going to see.
So I'm looking at WrestleMania 36 tickets, and literally there is not one. The only part of the arena that is sold out right now is the floor facing the hard camera ringside and the section right behind it. That is the no. I'm wrong. Actually, it's not sold out. Yeah, it looks like if you want tickets to WrestleMania, there's plenty left right now. Yeah, I was right. The only part of the building that's actually sold out right now, hard camera, facing the hard camera, front row, floor level. That's it. Everything else is up for grabs right now.
That's sad because they've never had that issue. They've never had to announce a match to sell out WrestleMania in 20 years, right? Had to be at least 20 years.
And here's the crazy thing. If you want 2 tickets right now, floor level, you're looking at $1,700 each.
That's probably why no one's buying them.
I mean, I assume at some point these prices may drop. On the aisle where the ramp is, $527 each. But there is no part of this arena that's sold out right now. Luxury suites are sold out, but that's probably given away to sponsors and guys like that.
Right. All right,
If
so
you want, if you want second level facing the hard cam, you're at $1,000 a seat.
That's
Wow.
insane.
Your nosebleeds are at $124 right now. Here's the stage. There are no seats behind the. Oh, here they. The seats behind the stage are going for $87.
There we go. We just got to buy a plane ticket to Tampa. We can afford that.
Unbelievable.
Like, why would you want to go though? Like, honestly, you see it all. It's better to watch on TV and you have your feet up, be in your underwear, instead of dealing with.
I'm curious if the Royal Rumble sold out yet. Let's see if that's sold out. I'd be very curious to see if the Royal Rumble is sold out yet. Let's go to StubHub and let's see.
So, have you had any other topics on your mind this week that you needed to vent about?
Nah, at this point, I'm a little kind of just taking wrestling as it comes. I can't expect much these days from either federation. I'm just liking the fact that AEW, this is such a strange setup. It's a baseball field, and they're going with the old school baseball field setup they used to have, like for the showdowns at Shea. So the ring is going to be at second base, and there'll be a couple of seats in the outfield. But basically, I guess you're going to be facing like almost like an amphitheater type deal. But you got plenty of seats available for this one. Ringside's at $900, most of which is not sold out. There's a lot of this stadium is empty. You've sold out the outfield, it looks like. Your front rows aren't sold out at all, to be honest with you. You got a lot of seats still for the Royal Rumble. A lot of seats left.
Going to be interesting. I want to set you off. I'm going to set you off on something, and it's actually not a wrestling related. So we're going to warn our listeners. We're going to go into spoilers here. I think you know what's coming because I see that smile. We're going to talk about Rise of the Skywalker.
Oh, my God.
Okay. So there are spoilers involved. So if you haven't seen it yet, you might want to wait to talk to us next week. But I want to get a shoot from Avi on this. Avi, go ahead. Rise of the Skywalker.
It was a pile of shit movie. From top to bottom, this was a pile of shit movie. Okay? The Emperor survived. You want to tell us how? The Sith is supposed to be the power of two. A master and an apprentice. Now he has a Sith army. He has these ships that can destroy an entire planet. Why is he waiting to use them? Kylo just decides, okay, I'm dropping the dark side. I killed my father and killed countless other thousands of people. I'm just going to go become a Jedi again. And the Knights of Ren, I guess, were like the bad guys in a James Bond movie because as soon as Kylo shows up, he just bouncing them around left, right, and center. So I guess these guys just had no power. Rey launches Sith lightning basically and destroys an entire ship that we thought had Chewie on top of it. But when she needs the Sith lightning, apparently there's no Sith lightning to be found. So, I mean, this entire trilogy was a fucking mess, and this was just J.J. Abrams at his finest, absolutely just making a mockery of Star Wars. For years, you defended J.J. Abrams.
I didn't defend J.J. Abrams. Let's get something clear. I said he did good with Star Trek. That is not defending J.J. Abrams or being a fan of J.J. Abrams. That's a fan of a single movie.
You have, for years, defended J.J. Abrams, Rian Johnson, and Michael Bay.
Time out. First off, Rian Johnson, I've literally seen one movie he's made, and it was Last Jedi, and it was shit.
And you defended him.
How did I defend him if I think the movie he made is shit? That makes zero sense.
Michael Bay, for years, you defended.
Again, I said I liked a single movie of his, and to you, that's defending. I said I didn't have a problem with the first Transformers movie. That's all I said. I enjoyed it. As a kid of the 80s, I enjoyed the Transformers movie. That is not in no way defending someone or being a fan enjoying one movie of their work. If I said The Rock and I don't even know what else he freaking directed, all the Bad Boys 2 and all this other blow-up crap. I actually tried watching his latest movie. I don't know if you saw it on Netflix, Underground 6 or 6 Underground, the one with Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah.
That thing was shit. I could not sit through past 30 minutes of that garbage. It was horrible.
You have defended Michael Bay time and time and time and time again. You defended the entire Transformers series.
That's not true. That's a bold-faced lie. I thought the last Jedi, the last night or the final night or the last one they did was complete garbage. I didn't think the only thing I liked about the fourth one was the freaking Dinobots. And Grimlock didn't even talk. So fuck him and fuck that shit. Grimlock didn't even say me Grimlock once. Forget that.
All right, let's go back to J.J. Abrams, your boy again.
My boy.
Who literally took Star Wars, wiped his ass with it, and said, there you go, fans. I feel like this Star Wars was literally J.J. Abrams got together with Kennedy and they said, okay, listen, let's give the fans what they've been bitching about. They'll be happy, and we can move on from this. That's all that was, that movie. We gave you the Emperor. We gave you Kylo Ren. We gave you Rey. And honestly, from the get-go, what were they doing with Rey? Seriously. I mean, how is it supposed to be a hero? I get we're in the age of making everyone a hero these days, but what was Rey? Come on. And let me take it a step further with Rey. So her father is the Emperor's son. So her father had no power? I guess it skips a generation?
If I had an emoji, it would be the emoji. Okay, here's what I think they made. The first mistake they made was when they decided to make these 3 new movies, they should have gotten one director signed on for all 3 movies.
Jon Favreau, who's done an excellent job with Mandalorian.
Right? They should have sent one guy to direct all 3 movies. I think the fact that Rian Johnson shit the bed with Last Jedi, and I think half the movie of Rise was them trying to retcon and fix a lot of that shit. Okay? The Kylo Ren reasoning that Leia used the rest of her life force to make him good, that's corny as fuck. I like the fact that Han Solo came back for one last scene. And so him falling into a cavern like he was the Emperor. I guess that means everyone could come back if they fall into a cavern, right? I gave it 2 stars. It wasn't as bad as Last Jedi, but it wasn't some great movie like certain people have been defending for the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, well, that movie was a giant pile of crap. That was one of the worst movies I've seen. I walked out of there and I was like, what the fuck did I just watch? This entire Star Wars, to me, honestly, what Disney has done with Star Wars, it reminds me of DC, where the movies are terrible, but the shows are great. Mandalorian, great show. I have no issues with Mandalorian. Love that last episode. I think Jon Favreau is doing an excellent job with it. That's the guy that should be doing Star Wars. Rian Johnson and J.J. Abrams have no business going near any movie, let alone Star Wars.
Mandalorian has been such a breath of fresh air and has been so good. And the only thing I'm pissed off about is the fact that we have to wait till the fall to see what happens next.
Who directed Solo?
Ron Howard.
Solo was probably one of the more acceptable Star Wars movies. I wouldn't say it's a good one. I would say it was acceptable as a Star Wars movie.
But I don't know how much he was actually him and how much were the previous directors who got fired in the middle of the movie.
That's
So it
true.
was,
Yeah. Honestly, so far Star Wars has been a disaster when it comes to the way it's being handled by Disney. And I'm surprised because honestly, they did a great job with Marvel, but they're just shitting the bed with Star Wars.
I'm gonna blame Kathleen Kennedy.
Yeah, I'm with you
She's
on this one.
because she's basically the head who makes the fun. She's the Kevin Feige of Star Wars. Kevin Feige is the one who has led Marvel in the direction for the last 12 years that he wanted to go, and they've hit a home run with every single movie. Well, okay, except for like the first two Thors, those sucked. But he's hit a home run, and now they actually brought him in to do the next step in Star Wars. So hopefully he can right the Star Wars ship.
Yeah, I agree. Kennedy has completely shit the bed when it comes to the whole Star Wars thing. I mean, she was great with Marvel, as far as giving them the back. You know what it was? She laid off at Marvel. She goes, okay, do what you got to do. I know what you want to do. I'm hands off. Here's your budget. Have fun. With Star Wars, she took the reins on that one. I think the Star Wars deal was obviously a bigger deal, and I think Disney put a lot of pressure on her to make it work. I mean, they bought Marvel for how much?
I'm gonna have to look that up. I'm honestly not sure. I know it was
Probably a couple hundred million. What they spend on Star Wars?
4 billion.
Yeah. So I think the pressure on Kennedy was a lot bigger than it was with Marvel, where with Marvel she could hire somebody and say, okay, go with this, go make money. I think with Star Wars, it was like, you better make money. And listen, Star Wars has made money. Don't get me wrong. I mean, all three movies have made money. All the movies, rather. I think it's all they have to now. Four movies all four movies have made money. Disney Plus, which is interesting, by the way, subscriptions, 20% of them got canceled after The Mandalorian. So they're making money off of Star Wars, which was obviously her mandate. But I think in doing so, she took too much control over the situation and gave us the shit show that we're having right now.
Believe it or not, they bought it for the same amount of money, $4 billion. They
Wow.
bought Marvel.
Yeah, but you know what, though? If you think about Marvel, all right, the X-Men movies were good, except for anything with Wolverine. Just his movies just don't work out. Thor 1 and Thor 2 are terrible. Third one was great. Um, your Avenger movies, they've all been good. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of Civil War, but I'm not going to say it was a bad movie. I just think, Infinity War was obviously better and Endgame was better. I think Civil War is probably the weakest one out of all. Was it four of them altogether?
That was actually officially a Captain America movie. That's actually the third Captain America movie, but there are four Avengers movies.
Yeah, Civil War to me, I think, is the weakest one out of all of them. But if you look at what Marvel's done, I mean, between Black Panther and the Avenger movies, the Iron Man movies and all that stuff, they've done great with those. For whatever reason, they're swinging and missing with Star Wars.
I'm actually looking forward to the next 5 years when it comes to the Marvel movies because they acquired Fox and last summer, and now they have the X-Men back in their house. They have the Fantastic Four back in their house. There's rumors of Doctor Doom's going to be showing up, and he's going to be next big bad. So, they may not have like a lot of the major titles coming out in the next couple of years. It's more obscure titles, kind of like how Guardians of the Galaxy were. And, they did great with Guardians, and all of a sudden Guardians blew up, and everyone's Groot. I named my cat Groot. So,
Right. I mean, look at a movie like with Ryan Reynolds. What's his name again?
Deadpool.
Deadpool. When Deadpool first came out, nobody thought it was going to be as good as it was.
Right?
Part one and part two had me cracking up. No, there was no way anybody thought Deadpool was going to be as good as it was, part one or part two. I saw both in the theaters. Both were fantastic. Iron Man, for instance. Nobody thought that was going to be the hit that it became. You look at Robert Downey Jr., he was just out of prison on the balls of his ass. Nobody thought he'd become what he became. The Infinity movies, you kind of felt like they were going to be okay. Nobody thought they were going to be as good as they were. Guardians of the Galaxy, I did not expect to be the hit it was. So Disney, in a sense, when they got Marvel, really kind of not only shocked people, but they took comic movies to a different level. Where now every DC movie has been a fucking one disappointment after another. Aquaman wasn't a bad movie compared to a Marvel movie. It's a piece of shit. Dawn of Justice was a terrible movie compared to a Marvel movie. a standalone, it's not that bad. If you think about it, the original Dark Knight trilogy comes out before Disney gets its hands on Marvel. Everyone loved it.
Mm-hmm.
Compared to the Marvel movies, it's still great, but not nearly as good as it was back then. Really, it's not standing up to the test of time because of the Marvel movies. Makes you wonder if Disney should just buy DC and do us all a favor at this point.
I saw this meme that, or these pictures online, and they were like the future, and it showed like 2020, 2025 buys DC. Basically showing that Disney's going to own everything in the next 50 years.
I mean, if you look at DC movies, and it's funny because they made a joke about this in Deadpool when he goes, it's so dark and dank. What is it, a DC movie? It's the truth. You look at Wonder Woman, dark and dank movie. Dawn of Justice, dark and dank movie. Aquaman, dark and dank movie. Even the Harley Quinn movie that's coming out. Harley Quinn is an amazing character, and they're going to screw this up royally, I feel like.
Yeah, she's good as a supporting character. I don't think she can carry her own movie.
Don't they have her in a cartoon now?
Yeah, which is awesome, by the way. It's on the DC app, DC Universe, their streaming service, and it is awesome. It is funny. It's R-rated. There's cursing. It's really freaking funny. You got to I got to give you my password. You got to sign in and watch it. It's really good.
When did it start?
A month ago.
How many episodes?
4 or 5. Actually, the new one came out today, and they're only like 22 minutes each.
Oh, I thought they're short. Okay, because I love Harley.
And the chick who played Penny on Big Bang Theory, she voices it. She voices Harley Quinn.
Yeah, I got to get into that one. All right, so I got to download the app and go from there. Speaking of apps, so I downloaded this channel got to be about a week or two ago. I saw it was free. So, it's a free app. Might as well download it. So I have an LG TV. So I went to the LG store and I downloaded this thing called Fawsome TV. FAW Some TV. And I got to give them a plug at this point. These are movies that nobody's ever heard of. They have a couple of shows you've heard of. They have the Cosby Show on there for whatever reason. But they have movies that literally, like Monster Island. Monster Island was an MTV movie starring Carmen Electra, where the main person gets kidnapped by a giant praying mantis, and her friends have to go to an island to rescue her from a giant praying mantis along these other monsters that inhabit the island. And the doctor who made these giant monsters is none other than Adam West.
If Adam West is in it, it's a great movie. I don't care. Adam West.
These are the movies that not even B movies. These are movies that never ever saw the light of day. They're not going to cable. They're not going to TV. These are MTV movies. A lot of them are like I don't even know the names of the production companies. But if you're ever bored and you want to download a station, they have like 10,000 movies and TV shows. It's called Fawsome TV. It is literally the worst movies you will ever watch in your life.
All right. Is it worse than sci-fi movies, sci-fi channel movies?
Oh, that makes those look like Academy Award winning movies.
Oh boy.
It's kind of like remember Ed Wood, the director?
Right.
Okay. It's like Plan 9 from Outer Space bad. I'm talking like you can just tell when they went to the cutting room floor, they did not care about certain scenes.
Well, you know what? I'm going to have to download that. If there's nothing to watch, at least they'll be like, okay, what's worse, these movies or the Rusev the wedding on Monday? What was worse?
Honestly, that wedding angle reminds me of these movies. It's kind of like that bad. Listen, Fawsome.tv, if you want to sponsor us, please do. Give us a call. We'll get this shout out every week. I have at this point gotten most of my friends to download this app. It is the funniest. And by the way, it's a streaming service that's free. They have commercials during the movies. You're watching the movie. All of a sudden, you get that little white circly thing that comes on the screen, and you're basically going to it'll tell you 1 of 3 commercials, 2 of 3 commercials, 3 of 3 commercials. And the commercials are just as low budget as the movies are.
Well, if you want to sponsor us, tweet us at WillYouStopPod on Twitter, or you can go to WillYouStopPodcast.com. Hit us up on our social media, and that goes for all you guys listening. Any questions? We're back. We're bad. We're going to give you more content. We're going to, we kind of fell off. Work got in the way during the end of the last year, but we're going to give you a more consistent show for this coming year. I called it season 2. I'm going to steal that from AEW because AEW apparently this was a season premiere because it said season 2. So this is season 2 for us.
Yeah.
So
You know who's actually going to carve out, I think, a nice career for himself again because he's become such a grumpy old man? Mark Hamill. I think with this new Star Wars, he's become such a grumpy old man that I think he's going to carve out a new niche for himself now and be the grumpy old man in every TV show and movie coming forth. I would not be shocked if he makes a ton of cameos moving forward.
I would. Hey, you know what? Mark Hamill's been great. I mean, I always thought his career he died like not he literally died, but I thought his career died after Star Wars, and I had no clue he was voicing Joker for all those years
I know.
and doing all these voices.
Let me ask you this question. If you're going to go with one comic character right now that you need to get a movie from, who is it?
Who has not had a movie ever?
Anybody. Anybody.
I want to see Doctor Doom done correctly. He's never been done right, in my opinion, with those Fantastic Four movies. I think it's time, and even though that people, DC loyalists will say something, I think Namor needs his own movie, The Submariner. He was technically the first mutant in comic books. So,
I'm at the point now where I just want an old school Batman, Joker, Harley Quinn movie. Just give us an old school 2.5 hour, 3 hour, no origins needed. Just go and give us an old school Batman, Joker, Harley Quinn.
the problem is, who do you get this Joker? Because you don't bring freaking Leto back for that shit.
God.
Okay, so it's like,
Or Phoenix and his garbage movie. I mean, honestly, I think a Dark Knight at this point, Christian Bale did a good job. Ben Affleck did a decent job for what it's worth. He really wasn't as bad as I thought he was going to be. I think you're at the point now where you can go with either one of those guys as Dark Knight. Harley Quinn, you got to go Margot Robbie. She was fantastic as Harley Quinn. I think Joker right now, oh God. I mean, there's got to be somebody out there that can play Joker.
First off, if you take Ben Affleck's performance out of the bad scripts and bad movies like Dawn of Justice, he was a good Batman. He played that role well.
He wasn't really a bad Batman at all, to be honest with you. I mean, it was funny when it first happened. We all kind of laughed at it. But yeah, take away the bad script and the bad movie, he was the Dark Knight. He played Bruce Wayne to a T, the playboy, the billionaire playboy with surrounded by women at all times. People forget Batman is a tough play because if you think about it, you're playing a superhero who's damaged, obviously. But when he's not Batman, he's got to be a real asshole. People don't realize that Bruce Wayne, for what it's worth, is an asshole. Am I right or wrong?
You're right. And Bruce Wayne is also the mask. He is Batman. Bruce Wayne is his secret identity, if you will.
Right. But if you think about it, people are always mistaken that Bruce Wayne is almost like, Clark Kent. He's this dorky. No.
Right.
Bruce Wayne is an asshole. Bruce Wayne drives, a Lamborghini and Ferrari, wanders around drunk and stoned all day, banging girls left, right, and center, with no commitment whatsoever, and just throws his money around and flaunts it. If you think about it, the closest you ever saw to the true Bruce Wayne was in The Dark Knight when he's jumping into the water in that scene at the party. That's the real Bruce right there. As far as Batman goes, that's the tougher part to pull off, I feel like. Anybody could behave like an asshole who just plays women all day. That's where you're going to get that toughness, and that's where I think Ben Affleck actually did a lot better than we thought he was going to do. He was a good Batman. I think he was a good Bruce Wayne, just like Christian Bale was. I think Margot Robbie is fine as a Harley Quinn. I think if you go with Joker, that's the tough role that nobody can see. I mean, Heath Ledger was the best one at it.
It's funny. There's been so many times that people have been cast in movies, and there's been such an uproar. Back in, I guess it would be maybe 87 or 88, whenever they announced that Michael Keaton was going to play Batman. There was no internet, obviously, back then. But, whatever comic magazines or whatever there was, people would be in such an uproar. Oh, how could Mr. Mom be Batman? And he's considered like one of the best Batmen of all time.
Listen, people complained about Christopher Reeve getting the part of Superman. They felt he was too dorky. Yep. Well, guess what? Clark Kent is a dork.
Yep. But they also did.
That's another guy. With Superman, they got to figure that out. I mean, seriously. If I was in it, it'll always be Christopher Reeve, but there's got to be somebody out there. What's funny is the last guy to play, was it
Cavill, Henry Cavill.
Right. He has the look. He just sucks as an actor. That's the only problem. He has the look. I think he has the Clark Kent part down well. He does not play you remember, Superman, people don't realize this also. Superman is a cocky superhero. He talks a lot of shit, if you remember. Read the comics. In his fights, Superman does talk a lot of shit. I think that's where he's getting screwed up, is that he plays Clark Kent well. He's not playing Superman well.
I'm going to tell you the mistake that Snyder has made with Superman. He tried to take Superman, who was supposed to be a beacon of hope, and be light, and try to make him dark. And he tried to do the Batman Begins, the Dark Knight stuff that Nolan did with Batman, and tried to apply that to Superman. And you can't do that with Superman. Superman is light. He's bright colors. He's positivity. He's literally the other side of the coin of Batman. Batman is dark. Superman is light. You can't try to do a dark film using Superman. It will not work.
You know what it is, though? If you look at a lot of the superheroes that have come out over the last, 30 years, whatever it is, they did good with the Dark Knight trilogy. Ledger was a great Joker. Even Bane was good. Ra's al Ghul was great. I mean, you can't go wrong with Liam Neeson in any role as far as I'm concerned. But, when you look at certain guys like the new Superman, or even that horrible one with Kevin Spacey, that was just, God, what was that, Batman? Oh, no, it was Superman Returns.
Right.
I mean, Spider-Man, first one was good and just went downhill steadily after that. They just, for whatever reason, Superman, Spider-Man, they can't get them right. Two classic comic book characters that if you do it right, it'll be great, but they can't get either one of them right for whatever reason.
I disagree. I think Tom Holland is a great Spider-Man in Marvel right now. I didn't think Far From Home was a home run.
It went with Condor.
It wasn't Condor.
Or whatever the hell his name is.
First time it's the Vulture.
Or
it was Vulture.
Vulture, Condor, whatever the hell it is. I mean, come on. There are so many better enemies they could have gone with.
That's a classic Spider-Man enemy, though. That's old school from the beginning.
Listen, it's like when Batman, unless he's going against Joker or Riddler or Penguin, or Bane, it is what it is. I mean, Superman, you got to go with the classics. You got to go with Goblin. You got to go with Doc Ock. You got to go even with Venom. You got to go with those guys. Sandman, those guys. You can't just go with an outlandish character like that. It's like imagine Superman doesn't go head-to-head with Lex Luthor.
To me, Superman doesn't have many enemies. I can't think of Mr. Mixel, yeah. Mr. Mixelplick, maybe Bizarro. I mean,
Brainiac. I mean,
Batman has a rogues gallery. You can go for a dozen movies with a different villain each movie for Batman.
I mean, Batman. You can go with Joker. You can go with Riddler. You can go with Penguin. You can go with Two-Face. You can go with Bane. You can go Ra's al Ghul. You can go with Catwoman. I mean, there's so many more you can go with.
Hush. There's so many Batman in the rogue gallery for Batman. He's got so much. And for me, I mean, I was more of a Batman fan than a Superman fan. So maybe I'm not as versed in, Superman lore. But to me, maybe I could count 5, Zod, obviously.
Right.
Even though no one can beat Terrence Stamp. I'm sorry.
I mean, Terrence Stamp was the ultimate one.
Okay, that guy who played, I can't remember his name, but whoever played in Superman,
please.
Man of Steel, whoever played him, no, I didn't like how he played Zod at all.
Terrible.
But I will say this, Brandon Routh did redeem himself. After getting shit on for doing Superman Returns in the CW shows, he brought back, he actually continued the Christopher Reeve Superman, and he redeemed himself. So, if you get a chance, go to the CW app and watch the freaking the crossover they're doing right now.
I'll tell you, it's funny. Speaking of movies, I was looking at the upcoming movies this year for 2020. Got a lot of interesting movies coming out this year. January isn't like a big month, but I mean, you have a new Fast and Furious coming out in May.
There hasn't even been a trailer dropped yet.
Yeah, believe it or not, in May you have new Fast and Furious. Well, you have Harley Quinn's movie coming out Friday, February 7th.
Right.
Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn, which I'm sure could be fun to watch.
Say that 3 times fast.
You got the Sonic the Hedgehog movie coming out in February.
At least they fixed that. They went back and they fixed all the graphics for Sonic because they made him look human, and it was freaky.
Fantasy Island.
That's going to be. I saw the trailer for that. It's going to be garbage, complete garbage. They made it into a horror movie.
The Invisible Man.
Another one that looks like shit.
Let's see what else we got coming out. So March looks like you got Mulan coming out in March. That should be interesting.
Oh yeah, because Disney didn't make enough money with the cartoons. We got to turn everything live action.
Let me see. April, it looks like you have not much in April. So now we're into May. May is a big month. Black Widow, which you know is going to be good. Looking
Right.
forward to that. Legally Blonde 3.
I'll make sure to buy tickets for that.
Let's see what else. Oh, new Scooby movie coming out.
Oh yeah, that's an animated one. Scoob, right?
Yep, we got Fast and Furious 9, which is going to have John Cena in it, and the guy from Fast and Furious 3 is making his comeback.
Oh, what the freaking guy with the accent?
Yeah. Now, June is a big one. You got Wonder Woman 84, which I'm sure is going to be a good one. I liked the original Wonder Woman. Candyman is getting rebooted, it looks like.
Why not? We reboot everything else in Hollywood.
The new Top Gun, which as much as I can't stand Tom Cruise, I have to go see it. Oh my, there's a new Minions coming out in July. New Ghostbusters.
What do you think? Did you see the trailer for that?
Yeah, it looks decent.
I like the fact that they're at least honoring Harold Ramis and having it be the grandkids of Egon.
Thoughts on Tenet?
That's the new Nolan movie, right?
Yep.
I actually haven't seen the trailer yet.
I saw the trailer. Looks pretty decent. August, Bill and Ted Face the Music.
That's good. We got to go see that. I'm sorry. And I'm going to tell you, Keanu Reeves looks weird, clean shaven. I've gotten so used to him with a beard because of John Wick, and they're making a fourth John Wick, which is coming out I think 2021. Who would have thought? He's almost 60 years old, and he's got himself an action franchise.
And then fast forward to October, you're getting a new G.I. Joe. You're getting a new Halloween. November, you have the Eternals. What are your thoughts on that?
That is a very star-studded cast. It's going to take place over 7,000 years, and it's going to have connections to how a lot of these heroes got their powers. And it's basically going to open up the floodgates to more of a cosmic storyline for Marvel in the next phase, Phase 4.
I'm calling it right now. Your big movie of 2020, money-wise, is going to probably either be Black Widow or this one right here. I'm not being facetious. We're going classic. Godzilla versus Kong.
I'm telling you that they're remaking it. You don't know who's going to win this time because you do know they made two different endings for Godzilla, the original Godzilla versus Kong, right? For those of you who don't know, in Japan, Godzilla won because that was their boy, and in America, Kong won because that was their boy. So there was actually two different endings to that. Did you see any of the Godzilla movies?
Yeah, of course.
Not the new ones.
Yeah, they were all right. December, you have the new Coming to America. Coming to America.
With a two, yeah.
And the big movie for next year, which will be the Wednesday before Christmas, Tom and Jerry.
Oh, again, I got to make sure to get my tickets for that way early.
You're coming out of the movie. You know, you're getting to the point now where everything is either a reboot, a remake, or, I mean, they're going with a live action Tom and Jerry. I mean, and Tom and Jerry, if I understand, are friends now.
I'm assuming that Tom and Jerry will be animated, and then and then everything else will be live, so they'll be in the real world, kind of like how Sonic is doing.
Yeah, it'll be the girl from Neighbors 2, whatever her name is, Chloe Moretz, whatever her name is. So, Coming to America, yeah, it's official. It's coming out. The original cast is all in it. Apparently, when he was in America trying to find his wife, he impregnated somebody, and his son is going to be in his 30s and is going to be waiting for him upon his arrival.
Is it Chris Rock? Is it Chris Rock?
I heard it is Chris Rock. That should be pretty funny.
He was good on Saturday Night Live.
I've heard rumors, rumblings of for 2021, a sequel to the movie Twins, where apparently Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger have a long-lost triplet brother, and it's going to be Eddie Murphy. That actually could be funny if you think about it.
But that would make sense because they're like in their 70s, and Eddie Murphy's only in his 50s, I think, or something like that.
So it looks like you got some decent movies coming out in 2020, it looks like.
Should be interesting. But I think the most important thing we need to lock down right now in front of everyone, your very first AEW show live in March in Newark, New Jersey. Are you in or are you out?
Yeah, we're gonna go.
We're going to go. It's both an hour drive for each of us. So we're going to meet in the middle. We're going to touch back base 10 years after the fact at the Prudential Center, where, what did we see there?
Hell in a
Cell.
The one where I think Triple H laid unconscious for like 25 minutes to spotlight on him as the rest of the match went on. That was when CM Punk got squashed in the opening match against Undertaker because he refused to wear a suit or something like that.
Which might have been the worst Hell in a Cell match of all time.
It's saying a lot these days. Who knows?
But
yeah, I mean, listen. It's amazing to me that we have no desire to go to any WWE shows that are around here. They just had an MSG show, which I heard wasn't even close to sold out. Had no desire to go to it.
I don't have a desire to go to wrestling live, especially when it's televised, because it's just you can see more and hear better home, and you can relax. But, I went to Philly. It was the first AEW show there. Had to see it live. We got to do Newark because you finally in an area that you can go see it live. So it's like these first time things, but it's like going to see if a movie if Jaws was re-released in the theaters. Do you really need to go see it? You've seen it 100 times at home. It's like WWE. You've seen them 100 times. You're not seeing anything new. So.
Yeah, you know what it is? Wrestling is kind of made to be watched on TV at this point, with your 50 different camera angles and your replays. Going there, I mean, listen, back in the day, we used to go to ECW at the Elks Lodge. That was an environment all to its own.
Yeah.
That was just, sheer insanity. It was completely different. But, now it's just, that insanity is just not there anymore.
Honestly, if I got down to Orlando, I would go see NXT at Full Sail because that's more of a ECW-esque closeness, if you will, as opposed to a 10,000-seat arena. So, I'm not trying to compare NXT to ECW, so don't come at me all week that I said that. I'm going on record right now. I'm just saying it's more of an intimate setting than going to a 10,000, 15,000-seat arena where you're 100 yards away from the ring.
It's funny. I just looked at my Facebook memories. January 4th, 2010. Here's my post. A new Monday Night War? Let's hope so.
Oh, that's right. Because it's okay, let's look at this. The main event segment of Raw from 2010 to begin 2010 was Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels burying the hatchet. Got about 5 million viewers, something like that.
Yep.
And the wedding is how we end the decade.
Ugh.
So
amazing to me. I mean, you look at the way, it's funny. If you look at the way wrestling, well, I wouldn't even say wrestling, but I would say WWE started, the last decade and ended this decade. It's like two completely different federations.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when WWE first went PG, we kind of sat there and was like, okay, how bad could it get? Well, we got our answer.
I mean, they're trying to move a little away from the PG without being completely. I mean, this storyline with Lana keeps saying that I want to make love to you or sex. I mean, she's getting that bad heat. She's not getting that Vicky Guerrero heat. Vicky Guerrero, who you never would have thought would have been such a great character.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Lana's getting the "you're annoying, but we can deal with you" heat.
And I think the fact that she's so horrible of an actress is making it more funny.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I think they figured out that, listen, she's horrible on the mic, off the mic, in the mic, around the mic. Let's just use that to our advantage.
I think they have her messing up the lines on purpose, believe it or not.
Well, they're trying to do this comedy thing now. I remember they tried comedy back around the invasion angle, if you remember. And it was pretty good. I was actually a fan of it when they tried doing that stuff. I'm not sure if they're going to go back to that again. Wouldn't be a bad idea. From what I understand, the Revival now is about to become a comedy act.
Well, they're kind of gonna diminish them because they won't sign new contracts. That's why they're going to be a comedy act.
Listen, there's something to be said for comedy and wrestling. I feel like it's always been a part of it. If you're going to go down that route, not the end of the world.
Look what it's done for R-Truth.
Listen, back in 2001, that wasn't bad when they went down that comedy route, if you remember.
I mean, that's basically what the 24/7 title is. It's a comedy title. I mean, look at R-Truth's career the last 6 months with that 24/7 title. It's been like he was barely on TV for years, and now he's like, he's a comedy guy, and there's nothing wrong with that at 54 years old. You don't have to work hard. You don't have to take many bumps.
Might as well have fun with it while you're still there.
Yeah, make the money. But I think that's gonna bring us to a close today. But we're gonna do something a little different next week. You guys have been talking about it for a few weeks. I'm gonna go head to head apparently next week. The prayers have been answered. We're gonna go. I'm gonna dig deep to the past. I'm gonna bring back an old gimmick for the boys. It's gonna be like a homecoming show on Raw where Godfather comes out as Papa Shango, or Mark Henry's coming out as Sexual Chocolate. Attitude Brandon's gonna return for 1 week only.
Oi!
We're gonna actually have a 4-way call next week.
Oi!
Yes. So joining us will be Avi's brother Izzy, who's been on the show once because he's a pussy. I'll say it right now. And his boy Tom out of DC, who is allegedly a bigger WWE mark than me. So we're going to have a 4-way discussion next week.
Wow.
Okay, so...
Folks, you have no idea what you're in for. The stuff that comes out of Brandon Attitude's mouth, or Attitude Brandon, whatever you want to call him, the stuff that comes out of his mouth is a thing of legend. This is a man who from around...
No spoilers. Don't give it away.
But let me just give you guys just a little sneak peek. This is a man that from I would say mid-1997 till probably around 2009, 2010-ish.
No, 2006. Be fair, 2006.
Everything and anything WWE did. Let me give you a couple of examples. He defended Philly with Katie Vick.
It was sports entertainment.
He once said, you have to accept that wrestling is not about the wrestling, it's about the entertainment. Let me continue.
And I'm sorry, I guarantee you Vince McMahon would agree with me.
This is a man that was so caught up in the wrestling war that the night after Tyson showed up on Raw, and Raw still lost to Nitro, he punched my table in my parents' house and screamed, "Damn it, what's it going to take?"
It was actually an open hand slap down. It wasn't a stunt.
No,
it was an open hand slap. But enough. You wet the palate. WillYouStopPodcast.com. Sign up. Join us. We're going to have... Next week is going to be a fun show. It's going to be... Avi will...
Next week. It is going to be a 4-way dance from hell.
Avi will not be able to speak because you're just going to see the one vein in his head popping out because he's going to be laughing the entire time. He's already crying. Look, hasn't even happened yet.
You have no idea what you're in for next week. You must tune in by hook or by crook. Get on your app. Get on the phone. Get on your computer. Get on something. You must tune in. You have no idea what you're in for. It is going to be 2 ultimate marks. Just basically having a WWE jerk fest the entire night and discussing what a genius Vince McMahon is and how amazing his product is.
And at the same time,
Brandon used to refer to himself and the WWE as we, as us. I'll give you another example.
Oh, wait. You're coming to me about that, but we have someone who constantly refers to AEW as we, yet doesn't even watch it, called it Impact 2.0. God, I wish we could get him on right now. That son of a bitch.
People, let me take this a step further. When Mark fucking Merrow signed with the WWE, the first guaranteed downside contract in WWE history, Brandon called me as he saw it on one of the websites back then in the infancy of AOL and the internet, and he screamed out, "We got one!"
I actually think it was during WrestleMania 12.
He was so excited about Mark fucking Merrow coming to WWE.
Listen, I mean, first off, it was during WrestleMania 12 when he showed up, I believe. And I will defend that comment right now because it's wait. This is what I deal with, folks. Every day. This is what I deal with.
Mark fucking Merrow. Well, I want Mark Merrow to call in and defend the fact that my friend here.
And without Mark Merrow, we would never have had Stable. So you know what?
But it wasn't like, hey, Mark Merrow signed with the WWE. We got one.
It is what it is. Guys, tune in next week.
Folks, you must. I don't care if it's your firstborn birth. I don't care what's going on in your life. You must tune in next week. You don't understand what you're in for. If you're a wrestling fan of any magnitude, in any way, shape, or form, you are going to see the ultimate death match next week. I'll probably die from laughing so hard and just probably keel over and that'll be the end of it. But believe me, folks, this is the ultimate show in the history of wrestling podcasts.
Well, folks, willyousstoppodcast.com. Catch us on Twitter at willyousstoppod. Email us at ywspod@gmail.com. And yeah, next week's gonna be it's gonna be an interesting show next week.
Oh, I can't wait for next week. This is gonna be the absolute greatest. It might be a 4 or 5 hour show next week, folks. Like this might be a record for the longest podcast of all time.
We definitely gotta have to do it on a Friday, I think, because you gotta make sure you don't got work the next day because you're gonna be up late.
Oh yeah, this is gonna be one of those classic ones. Speaking of which, did you listen to Something to Wrestle With this week?
No, I haven't had a chance to yet.
Sheiky baby,
which is kind of ironic with the events of the last couple days, if you think about it. But we're not going to get political here, ladies and gentlemen. Get ready.
People, get ready. Tune in next week. You're gonna have me sitting here, probably having a heart attack, laughing so hard.
Watch for the vein. Watch for the vein in the head. That's
my brother,
you know.
Who is turning into the ultimate AEW Mark. Tom, who is on a different level of WWE Mark. And the return of one of the greatest men, one of the greatest human beings in the history of the planet, Attitude Brandon.
How much is it him trolling? Or do you really think Izzy is really that big of an AEW Mark?
Tune in next week to find out.
Guys, catch us on social media, and we're going to be here next week. And it's going to be a doozy. See you guys.